In this video I'm going to show you guys how to make a propane gas forge for forging knives, blades, that kind of thing. I went and got this tank. If you search around your neighborhood, local stores, you could probably find an old tank that somebody's getting rid of. This is an old propane tank, maybe off of a recreational vehicle or possibly a boiler. I'm not quite sure what it is, but I got it at a local scrapyard for $5. So try not to spend a whole lot of money on your tank. Try to shoot for something probably about, this one here is 28 inches long. Probably will have a hard time finding something like that. But shoot for something that's maybe 10 to 12 inches long, 9 to 10 inches in diameter. This one's 11 inches in diameter. I would have preferred something a little smaller, but we'll make do with this because it was $5. It's pretty cheap. So the first thing we want to do is we want to cut the tank to size. I'm going to cut this one to 14 inches. That'll give me 2 inches of fiber blanket on the back, 1 inch of fiber blanket on the door, and that will leave me with a chamber length of around 11 inches. So I'm going to show you in just a second there how to make a nice straight cut around this tank, and I'll probably be cutting it with a jigsaw. Alright, so what you're going to need for this is a piece of paper about 5 or 6 inches longer than the circumference of your tube, some kind of tape, and a marker. So put the straight edge. What I've gone ahead and done is I've marked my lines around the outside of the tank so I can line my paper up with it. So the straight edge of your paper should be where you're going to mark your line. Just going to slip that paper under there. Line up my lines, my marks to the outside of the paper. Alright, now when your paper touches, the sides of the paper right here should be parallel with each other. That'll tell you whether or not your line is going to be exactly straight around the tube. So I'm going to mark that, or tape that with a piece of tape so it doesn't move. Now what I'm going to do is take my marker. I'm going to run along the edge of that line, of that paper. Now when you're done this, you'll have one side of your marker will be out here. There'll be a really crisp side to the side where you have your paper, and that's what you're going to cut along. There, that's my line. Now I'm going to take the tape off. Should give me a nice straight line to cut, and that should be equidistant all the way around that tube. Next step, we're going to start to cut. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a series of holes along that line, big enough so I can get my jigsaw blade in there. Now before you drill or cut into these kind of tanks, please make sure that all of the propane or gas or oil or anything that's in it is out of it. And it even helps to fill your tank full of water just to dilute whatever's in there, so if you don't cut through here and a spark and blows your tank up. So err on the side of safety on that. Alright, so I'm going to drill a few holes. I'll drill one right here and show you what it does. Alright, there's one hole. I'm going to drill probably 4 or 5 more holes to make a slot big enough to get my jigsaw in here, and we'll start with the jigsaw. Alright, I just wanted to give you a close-up of what those drilled holes, that's about 3/8 to a 1/2 inch long, and it's wide enough to fit my jigsaw blade in. Alright, what you'll need for this is a jigsaw with a metal cutting blade. It's an old blade, I'm not sure how long it'll last. And eye protection. Always wear your eye protection when you're cutting with steel. Alright, here we go. So as you can see, this is going to take a few minutes, so I'll stop right here, finish the cut, and get right back to you. Alright, I just about got it cut. I got about another 1.25 inches to go. Blade was a little dull, so it took a while. So there it is. That half's done. Alright, the next thing you're going to want to do after you get that cut is you want to clean your edges up, because they are sharp after you cut. I'm going to be attaching a flat sheet of metal to this end. So I tried putting the metal on the end and there was a few gaps, so I cleaned a little bit of the high spots up of the cut, and it fits pretty good. I want to get it as tight as fit as I can to weld the end on. And once I get the end welded on, I'm going to cut a 1-inch strip, and that part will be my door. So I'm going to continue on here, straightening this edge up, and we'll be right back. Alright, I've been sanding away on this tank for probably the last half hour or so, and that's paint's on there good. I had the angle grinder, I had a palm sander, even tried a blowtorch, and nothing would take that paint off very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this edge here where I'm going to weld, and wherever I'm going to weld later on I'll do, but I'll leave the tank. I'll put some high heat paint on it after I'm done. Alright, so here's my steel for the door. It's 1/8 inch steel. I didn't want that thick, but that's all they had. Probably 1/16 inch. I don't know. It'll work, but it's kind of heavy. We'll try it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this down. I'm going to put the tank on top, and I'm going to trace the outline. Of where I'm going to cut. Alright, there's my circle I'm going to cut, and when I cut this I'm going to cut it with the jigsaw again. I'm going to leave a lip probably about 1/8 of an inch all the way around, and that will give me something to tack my weld to. Alright, so I changed my mind. I was going to weld this to the tank and then cut it about 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch around and have that as the cover, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the ring. I'm going to weld it to the face. I think that would be easier. And what I've done here is I've laid out a square. That's going to be the opening to the forge. I've got it 4 inches from the bottom, so what I'm looking at is 2 inches of fiber blanket, and the bricks are usually about 2.5 inches thick. So I'll bevel the edge of the brick a little bit, and it should bring it down right flush with the metal right here. All right, so I'm going to get cutting this ring. All right, so I got my ring cut, 1 inch or 3/4 of an inch. 3/4 to 7/8 of an inch. The reason I do that is because I'm going to be putting 1 inch of Fiberfax on the back of this door, or K-wool, whatever you want to call it, and I want to leave at least 1/8 sticking out, so when I close the door it closes up tight against the K-wool that's inside the forge. So I got my hole cut out for my door. Before I cut it, I placed it on the forge and I made marks so that when I fasten it to the ring, it'll sit square. This here bottom of this will sit square to the forge. So right now I'm going to weld this to the front, and I'll show you what that looks like after. Alright, there she is, welded up. Not the best weld in the world, but she'll hold for this. Let's see how she fits. Like a glove. Alright, so I decided to do the legs next. So what I'm going to do is make sure that you have a platform for your forge. Make sure it's square and level. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark where I want my, well, how I leveled it is I just put it on a flat surface, put the level on it, and then I use shims to make sure the forge is level. Now what I want to do is I'm going to mark the position of my legs. Now what I'm going to do is I want them about 1.25 inches. So I'm going to mark over 1.25 inches. Put a mark. Flip it around. Inch and a quarter. Put a mark. So I've got my 2 marks. What I'm going to be using for leg material on this one is just some 1.5 inch angle iron. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the leg up against my mark. Make sure that's square. I'm going to take a marker. I'm going to mark the profile on the inside of the leg. So there I've got the profile of my leg, and I'll cut it to that profile. And I'm just going to flip it around undo this leg. How did I do that? Alright. Straight side out. Again, make sure it's square. And mark the profile. And there's my other profile. Alright, so I'm going to cut those and I'll bring you back. Alright, so I got the feet cut and the profile made to fit the drum. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld a piece of just a piece of metal in here like that, and that's just because I'm going to drill a hole down through it and put a bolt there, and those will be my legs so I can adjust the tilt of the forge. You don't have to do this. It's just something that a little extra I wanted to do. I've got the time, so I might as well do it. Anyways, we'll see that next. Alright, so I got the little piece put on the bottom and I drilled a hole through it for my legs. There's a close-up. The other one. Pretty simple. All done. Now I'm going to weld them onto the forge. So I'll see you when that's done. Alright, I got the legs welded on. Here's a close-up. So those holes in the bottom, I'll put bolts in later and use the bolts as feet so I can adjust the forge. What I would suggest when you're welding those on, if you're going that route, is to make sure that the forge is sitting on a flat surface and position the legs in place. First time I done it, I just clamped the legs on each side, and they were off by about 1/8 of an inch. So I just tack welded it, thank goodness. And then I put it on a flat surface and it worked a lot better the second time. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a hinge for the door on the front. Alright, so what I decided to do was make a hinge. I bent a piece of bolt and I have this metal sleeve that I found. Fits pretty good inside of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount this part here to the door, and then I'm going to mount this part here to the forge. But there's a gap because of the thickness of this right here, so I have to make that up with a piece of steel. So I'm going to mount the piece of steel to the forge first, and then I'm going to mount this to it. And what I've done is I've got everything centered. I found the center of the forge. That's where I'm going to put my hinge. I put a piece of metal in the side of it. Sorry for the shaking. I put a piece of metal right there. As you can see, it creates a gap. I want a little bit of a space in there. My fiberwool is going to take that up anyways, but I think it'll help with the opening and closing of the forge. That'll come out after. Alright, I'm going to do that and we'll get right back to you. Alright, so I got the hinge on. Yeah, you can make fun of the weld, but it's on there. It's stick. There you go. Now I'll work for a latch on the other side to keep it closed. So what I'm going to do now is attach the latch on the other side, and all I used was a little angle bracket, 1-inch angle bracket. Oops. I don't know what those are called. Just a bolt with an eyelet on the end of it, and just bent a piece of thin rod in the shape of a U. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to attach the U right there. And put this around it. I'm going to mount the bracket. In there, like that. And that'll give me some adjustability on that side. Alright, I'm going to weld that up. Alright, so I got the latch done. Here's a better look. Got that second nut on there. That leaves that gap around the outside, which is what I want to, that's going to leave the space again for the Fiberfax. And you've got some adjustability there. You can adjust it in a little further, out a little further. Alright, so next I'm going to work on some shelving for the front and back. Alright, so I got the shelf on, and what I did was I took a piece of 1.5 inch angle iron, welded it on each side, and then I put a piece of 1/8 plate across the angle iron. What that'll do when I'm forging is allow me to take a tool and give it something to rest on this side. And I made it wider than 2.5 inches because I'm going to take some fire brick and put like a fire brick here and a fire brick on this side, and I can close them to get a hotter forge if I want to. Alright, so my next step is I want to make a hole right out through the back in case I want to run something longer all the way through, and I'll put another shelf on the back side of it too, but smaller. Alright, next I'm going to install the 2 holders for the burners on the side here. And what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to take my my burner assembly, the 2 burner assembly that I put together, and I'm going to find out, evenly space it between the front and the back, and find out the distance between the two tips, and find the center of those, and then I'm going to drill holes just a little bit close to the inside diameter of that pipe, and I'm going to put them at a bit of an angle, probably something like that, not to point directly down on the piece, but something like an angle about this. So if I wanted to put something in over here, I could put it right in the flame, but if I don't want it right in the flame, I can bring it over to this side and keep it out of the flame if I don't want to focus all of my heat in one spot on the pipe, if I just want like a general heating. So it'll create a bit of a swirl inside of there too. Okay, so I got my burner holders installed, and I went ahead and tapped some 5/16 holes for 3 5/16 bolts in each one. Those will hold the burners in place. You can see the angle that I went at. Maybe a little bit steeper angle. Could have been a little bit more desirable, but I think that'll work. Alright, just a quick look. You can see down in there. There's the 3 bolts. All I did to space those out is I just wrapped a piece of tape around the pipe and then spread it out on a board after, and then marked the increments on it, and then taped it back on the pipe and marked it. They're about they're not quite halfway, but I don't think it really matters how far they're up. Alright, so she's all finished up. I had a coat of barbecue paint on it. I ended up, just before I painted it, making this archway in the top, just for a little extra room to get in and out, things in and out of it. I don't think it'll matter much for the heat wise, but so there's my, I've got another video on how to make those burners. So if you want, you can take a look at that. And I'm also going to do a video on how to insulate the forge. So take a look at that one too. Alright, thanks for watching.